A voice unmistakable that carried listeners from the living room into the stands.
And the pitch. Swung on, there's a high, towering drive into right field deep.
Always delivered with a level of excitement he could hardly contain, deeply rooted in his love of sports.
The NFL playoffs open with a double-barreled shocker today.
The sports world has lost Les Keiter, the General, a man who dedicated much of his career to covering sports as a revered and beloved member of the Channel 2 News team. General, tonight we salute you.
This is a KHON 2 News special report, saluting the General, Les Keiter remembered. Your host, Joe Moore.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we pay tribute to Les Keiter, a man who has meant so much to so many people, from those he worked with here at Channel 2 and in newsrooms across the mainland, to the athletes and coaches who would become a part of his storied career, and to the viewers and listeners who followed his play-by-play broadcast and who tuned in nightly for sports scores and highlights as only the General could deliver them. Les Keiter began and ended his broadcast career here in the islands. In between, his reputation as a sportscaster grew when he moved 5,000 miles to New York City. Kirk Matthews has that part of the General's story.
Les Keiter left the islands in the 50s to work in Philadelphia and New York. In 1958, when the baseball giants left the Big Apple and moved to San Francisco, New York fans were crestfallen. How would they keep up with their favorite team? Remember, this was before the internet and television sets weren't as common as they are now. The General had the answer. He would recreate the games on radio using nothing more than Western Union ticker reports, his imagination, and a wooden block and mallet.
And the pitch. Swung on, there's a high, towering drive into right field deep.
For 3 baseball seasons, Les was the voice of Giants baseball in New York on WINS radio. Truth is, the General wrote in his book, 50 Years Behind the Microphone, he didn't think New Yorkers would go for the recreated games. But the station owner talked him into it, and Les became the master of the art. When you added in the crowd noise generated in a small Manhattan studio by his engineer and listened to Les's enthusiastic play-by-play description of a game thousands of miles away, it was truly theater of the mind, and you found yourself caught up in the excitement of America's pastime. He had the energy of a Harry Carey and the encyclopedic knowledge of the game of a Vin Scully, and he was always happy to share both with all of us. During this same time, he was also doing broadcasts for the football Giants and the New York Knicks. In 1963, Les traveled to Philadelphia, where he broadcast college basketball games for the Big Five. But an event in 1964 connected Les Keiter's name with one of the biggest in sports history.
Clay misses 2 left and then lands a left and a right to first Liston. A right by Clay, Liston topples. A left by Clay, he has Liston's eye cut open.
Les was ringside doing a blow-by-blow radio broadcast of the heavyweight championship fight between Olympic champion Cassius Clay and Sonny Liston. The General's ringside partner during that match, the legendary Howard Cosell. Les went on to broadcast a dozen championship fights with Cassius Clay, who soon after the Liston fight changed his name to Muhammad Ali, Floyd Patterson, Ingemar Johansson, and many others. But the lure of the islands was too much, and in 1970, the General brought Lila and his family home. Our paths crossed almost daily at the station. He called me kid, and it always made me smile.
Les Keiter returned to Hawaii in 1970 to start an advertising agency. But the broadcasting business was not done with him just yet, and vice versa.
Les Keiter with a question for us.
Can the Bows snap that 10-game losing streak on the road?
Keiter was hired by Channel 2 News as sports director in 1971. 7 years later, I moved over to Channel 2 and was paired with one of the greats.
The Channel 2 News at 10, the #1 rated late news in Hawaii, with Joe Moore and Les Keiter.
Les Keiter's here with Sports Next.
He would occupy that seat for more than 2 decades before retiring in 1993. So how did Les Keiter, a man who'd served in the Navy, come to be known as the General? Well, you can blame Jack Lord and me for that. Jack cast Les as an Army general in an episode of Hawaii Five-0.
Just suppose it was 90 seconds, General.
That could have been the end of the world, and we wouldn't know till it hit. But it wasn't 90 seconds, Steve.
In another episode of 5-0, I was cast as an Army captain.
May I see your service record, Captain?
When I'd see Les at sporting events, I'd playfully yell out, "Hey, General!" Well, because of our 5-0 roles, and also because as a young sportscaster at that time, to me, Les was the general of Hawaii's sports world. I called him that around the newsroom when we started working together. And one night on the air, without even thinking about it, I called him General. And it was just so natural, I kept on calling him that. And so did a lot of folks who agreed Les Keiter was Hawaii's sports general.